In this video, I'm going to show you the step-by-step process that you can try to build a simple note-taking app that allows the user to register using an email and password, and also they should be able to sign in with their account, and they can write, modify, and even delete notes on the dashboard, and the notes that they just created or managed in their account will be stored in the database, so the next time they log in to their account, even though on a different browser or device, they should be able to see the same note that they have made before. This tutorial video is for a complete beginner that never coded before and just want to try AI code editors like Windsurf or Cursor AI, and I'm going to show you the step-by-step process on how you can actually implement a database feature into your application. It is useful for handling the user data, it is useful for managing information, and overall, almost every time you want to build something, then database is going to be involved. So this is going to be the step-by-step process to implement Supabase database into your project. And again, we are not going to code here, we are going to just use AI prompting, and I'm going to show you all the prompt and also the process until we are able to implement the database into this note-taking app. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, the first thing that you need to do is you have to install an AI code editor. It could be Windsurf, it could also be Cursor AI. So these two are probably the best program right now when it comes to creating application or creating website with just prompting, and AI will do the coding for us. For this demonstration, I'm actually going to be using Windsurf, but I heard that Cursor AI is very similar to Windsurf, so if you prefer to use Cursor AI, then feel free to do so. So I'm going to open Windsurf on my computer, and I'm going to show you how you can start a project and also the prompt that you can use to actually start building this note-taking app that will incorporate database using the Supabase platform. Now I'm going to open the file menu and click open folder, and let's create a new folder. I'm going to call this project Note Taker. Let's hit enter, and I'm going to select that folder that I just created as the folder for the project. I'm going to click select folder, and this is the interface of Windsurf. I think it's very similar to some other code editors, including VS Code. Actually, there is a new feature called GitHub Copilot that is now available for free, and if you prefer to use VS Code, then you can definitely use VS Code in conjunction with GitHub Copilot, but I think Windsurf and Cursor AI are just way better. But anyway, I'm going to open the Cascade window here. This is where I can interact with the AI. I'm going to send a lot of prompts from here, and I guess we can start by actually writing a Windsurf rule. So Windsurf rules is similar to Cursor rules. If you are using Cursor AI, they do have the same feature, and this is going to be just, you know, an extra prompt, or I would say system prompt that you could inject before the actual prompt. This is actually optional, but you can definitely use that. So in order to set up the Windsurf rules, you can go to Windsurf settings, and here you want to click set workspace AI rules, and then click edit rules. So this is going to be the instructions, the extra instructions that you can set for the AI, and on top of the prompt that you're going to write here, the AI will receive these rules as well. This is going to be the instruction, the extra instruction that maybe you are not going to always include in your prompt, but you want the AI to know that there are a few guidelines that it needs to follow. And I'm going to show you the Windsurf rules that I'm going to use for this video, but again, this is completely optional. If you can pause the video and then use this exact same rules, but again, optional. You can even use a completely different rules, and that should be fine. Now I'm going to click file and then save. And by the way, these rules are only for this particular project. If you want to have guidelines or rules for every project going forward, then you can click Windsurf settings and then set global AI rules, and this is for global. This is for every project that you are working on your AI code editor. But anyway, I'm going to close this, and I'm going to start building this note-taking app. As I promised earlier, we are not going to write a single line of code. We are going to just use a prompt, and I have created the prompt. This is going to be the prompt that you can use. Don't worry, you can actually just check the description because I'm going to provide this prompt right there. And this prompt is actually quite long, which is actually not the best practice when it comes to coding or prompting with AI. Generally speaking, it's always a good idea to start things slowly. You just want to give a few comments to the AI and then let it finish, and then you can continue to the next step. But this time around, I'm going to stress test the AI. I'm going to send a lot of requirements, and hopefully it can do something. And the reason I'm using this prompt that is very long is because I want to condense the step-by-step guide. So we have to build the interface of the website. We also have to build the authentication with Supabase, and actually have made a tutorial video about how you can implement the user authentication using email and password on my previous video. That video goes into much detail for that particular feature, and that video is, I think, 27 minutes long, so you can imagine that I'm explaining a lot of things there. But for this video, we are going to focus the attention on the database feature from Supabase. So anyway, this is the prompt, and I actually have created this prompt to be as human as possible, as readable as possible, and hopefully anybody can understand this prompt. And I'll try to explain this prompt, and hopefully you can understand that. So the point number one is generate a beautiful web application called Note Taker. By the way, I think I have to remove the space because it's called Note Taker without space. And this Note Taker app is powered by Supabase. Of course, we want to just set up the technology that we want to use. We want to tell the AI that this app is going to be used by Supabase. Supabase is going to be the back end of this application. And then number two, the user can sign in and then create a node that would be stored in the database. Okay. And number three, generate a homepage, sign up, sign in, email confirmation, reset password, and dashboard pages using vanilla HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now, I want to make this tutorial as beginner friendly as possible, even for people that never code in the past. So I'm not going to use any framework or CSS library. I just want to use the basic HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So it's not going to make the project overly complicated. And then on the point number four, add Supabase client library via CDN to the sign in, sign up, password reset, and dashboard pages. Okay, I think this part requires a bit more explanation. So Supabase client library is like the ingredient of the project. If you want to implement Supabase authentication and also database, then you have to install Supabase client library into your project. Now, there are actually two different methods on how you can install the module into your project. The first option is by using CDN, and the second option is called NPM. Now, I'm going to explain that a bit. The NPM method essentially means we are going to download the Supabase client library into our computer, into this project. And the CDN method, on the other hand, is a bit different. So instead of downloading the library into the project, we can just borrow that from another server on the internet. And that server is really fast. It is also free, so we can use that. And the choices between NPM and CDN is something that you have to decide yourself. But generally speaking, when it comes to choosing, NPM is good for building an app. If you build an app that the user needs to download and install to their computer or smartphone, then the NPM method is the best choice because it's going to be bundled with the app. So when the user opens the app, the library is there. It doesn't have to download something from the internet, while the CDN needs to download or load something from another server. And this is particularly good if you are building a web application. Since I'm building a web application, I'm going to select this option, and in my opinion, this is also a lot simpler for beginners because it's going to make the files in our project a lot less complicated. Because if you're downloading the library to your project, then you are going to see some new folders, some new files that are from the Supabase client library, and that could look scary for complete beginners. And that's why I think CDN is the best choice for now. And also for this particular project, I'm going to remove this NPM section, and basically we want to get that, we want to load that library every time the user visits the sign in, sign up, password research, and dashboard pages. Those pages are going to be closely involved with the authentication with Supabase, and that's why we want to make sure that the library is loaded on these pages. The library is not going to be included in the home and email confirmation pages because those two pages don't really need the library at all because there is almost no user authentication feature there. The homepage is really just for the information, for the landing page of the application, and the confirmation page a lot of times is just to tell the user to check the email and then click the link to verify their account. That doesn't need any JavaScript at all. That's just a simple information page. Okay, now let's move on to the next prompt. The next prompt is the dashboard page allows sign-in users to see, create, modify, and delete notes. Of course, these are just some features that will be available when the user is signed in, and they can start creating notes, they can organize the note, they can modify the notes that they made, and of course they can also modify the database in a way that they can remove the notes that they have created, and that action will be reflected in the database. Alright, now on the next prompt, the dashboard page will have its own JavaScript file that stores and fetches notes from the database. Of course, in order to get that function, in order to let the website to interact with the backend from Supabase, we need this JavaScript file, and this JavaScript file will be created by the AI code editor, and it will handle the function. So you don't have to worry too much about that, but basically we want to get a dedicated JavaScript file that will handle this particular function. And also on the next prompt, generate a JavaScript file that will handle the user authentication. Now, this is actually a good practice. So you can technically use just a single JavaScript file for the entire project, but of course that's going to make the file a lot more complicated, a lot longer, difficult to debug. AI maybe struggle to understand the code because if the code is very long, it contains a lot of functions, and it will make the AI struggle to understand the code. And if you are asking the AI to modify the changes, then it will probably do a lot more harm than good. The code quality will be significantly less, and it's just generally speaking not a good practice. We want to follow the modular practice, which basically means there's going to be a dedicated file for a dedicated function. And these two examples, the point number 6 and 7, we just want to get a single JavaScript file for each function. So there is a JavaScript file for handling the database, and then there is also the JavaScript file for handling the user authentication. And then on the last prompt, generate a .env file to store the Supabase project URL and public Anon key. Okay, the .env file stands for environment, and this is where you can store some sensitive information like the project URL and also the public anonymous key or some API key that you might be using on your project. You can think of it like a password manager for your software. Of course, this is useful if you don't want to expose some sensitive information to the user, and you can store that into this file. Now, technically speaking, the Supabase project URL and public Anon key are technically not secret info. It's something that okay to be exposed to the user, but as a general practice, you want to store this kind of information into the .env file. So this is the prompt that I'm going to use. Again, don't worry about typing this prompt. I'm going to provide this prompt in the video description. And also, you want to use the Cloud 3.5 Sonnet. That is, I think, the best model when it comes to coding. And enable the write mode, and after that you can press the enter key and it will start building this application. I'm going to click this button and just wait for the AI code editor to start building this note-taking app. By the way, I think it is worth mentioning that even though you might be using the same prompting, there is a possibility that the AI might come up with a completely different code, and you might be encounter a problem that is not going to be shown in this video. I'm not going to encounter the problem, but you might be seeing a problem that is unique to you and you have to solve it yourself. But fortunately, there is AI, and the AI might be helping you to solve the problem. You can describe the problem and you can send the problem or the error message to the AI, and hopefully it will come back with the solution and even fix the code. But anyway, now we can see that the AI in Windsurf is creating all these files. It's creating the environment files, it's creating the index, which is the home page, the sign in, sign up pages, and now I'm still waiting until it finishes, and we'll be right back in just about a minute. All right, so basically it is almost done, and we have been building the user interface, the website, and also the authentication logic that will handle the user registration, sign in, and reset password. So this is the repository. This is the code base that the AI has generated for me. As you can see that the Supabase client library, which is this one, this this script has been implemented to the sign up, sign in, the reset password, the dashboard page, but it doesn't exist on the index page. There is no Supabase client library because it is not needed. But yeah, I do notice that there is no email confirmation page. Maybe it is lost in the prompting, and this is actually a pretty common theme. That's why previously I mentioned that if you want to prompt AI, don't give it too much requirement. Just give maybe 1, 2, 3 prompts, and after that, after it finishes with that, you can continue with the next requirements. This is a prompt that is definitely too long, but I did it because I want to condense this video. I want to get the interface and the authentication done as quickly as possible, and this is the side effect, but that's okay for now. I think it is okay to not using the email confirmation page. Now I'm going to just review the code a bit, and I think everything looks great, and I'm going to click accept all. But before we continue, I want to see how this website is going to look like. I'm going to use the extension called Live Server to open this website on basically running this website on my server on my computer, and I should be able to preview that on the same device. So you can go to the extension section here, and then you want to search for Live Server and hit enter. There should be a lot of different options, but the one that I'm using is called Live Server, also known as Live Server. You can click install, and once you do that, you can go back to the Explorer again, and I'm going to preview the indexed HTML, which is the home page. Just right click and then open with Live Server. It is running the server and it will open the website. Now this is the website. I'm going to show you. This is the website, and let me move the window a little bit, so it should be easier to preview this. Okay, let me try that again. Right, so this is the website, and I think it looks great. I can click the sign in. It leads to the sign in page. There is also a sign up page. There is also the forgot password page. Okay, so far so good, but I want to know the dashboard page, so I'm going to just click on this dashboard.html while the server is still running, and it will automatically refresh to this page, the dashboard page. Right now it is empty. I can click new node, but it's not going to be saved to the database because we haven't set up the database. But just give it a try. This is a node without database. Click save. Supabase is not defined, of course. At least for now, I'm happy that the interface is more or less done, so we can move on to the next step. Okay, so the next thing that we are going to do is we are going to set up a Supabase project, and we are going to connect that project into our application here. So after that, we are going to do some testing. We are going to test the authentication feature, and after that, we are going to implement the database, so the user can create a node, and that node will be stored in the database in Supabase. So let's visit supabase.com, and this is the website. You can create an account for free, and usually they're going to ask you some information like what's your name, where is your location, and also maybe what is your organization, what is your purpose of using Supabase. Basically, there are a lot of questions in the onboarding process, but just follow along. But after that, you should be able to access the dashboard. I'm going to go to dashboard, and after that, click new project, and you can select the organization in your Supabase account. And then here, I'm going to call this project node taker, and the database password. You can randomly generate a password, and you can store it somewhere safe in your device or in the cloud. But in this video tutorial, we are not going to use this database password at all. It is a good practice to save the database password, but this thing is not going to be used in this video. And after that, you can select the region based on the user base. And once you're done with these pieces of information, you can click create new project. And usually it's going to take about 2 minutes or maybe less to actually setting up the project. And we are going to wait because we need some information, and that information is still being processed by Supabase. So we are going to wait for about 2 minutes. All right, the project has been set up in Supabase, and now you want to scroll down. And by the way, make sure you are in the home of the project in your Supabase account, and then you want to scroll down a little bit, and you will find this section. But remember that we want to copy the project URL and also the Anon public key, this piece of information that we want to copy. So let's start with the project URL. I'm going to click copy and let's go back to the code editor, Windsurf. Go to .env file and I'm going to remove this value from the Supabase variable, right click and then paste. Now let's go back to the browser. I'm going to copy the API key, copy. Let's go back, remove this and right click, paste, and yeah, we're basically done with the basic information. And by the way, this should be there. Okay, now click file, click save, and yeah, now we can actually start testing this web application. At least we can test the user authentication feature. But before we can move on to the next step, there are a few things in the Supabase account that we need to change. So let's go back to Supabase, and then you want to hover the cursor around here and go to authentication and navigate to providers. You want to make sure that the email option is available. There is also other options like login with Facebook, Figma, GitHub, Google, etc. But that topic is for another video. I think email and password should be good enough for a small to medium project, and also it is a lot less complicated to implement. And then you want to navigate to URL configuration. So by default, it's going to be using the localhost 3000, which is pretty much the default URL for a website running on the local computer server. But since I'm using the live server extension, the URL is actually no longer localhost 3000. It was this URL, so I have to change it. This is very useful if you want to do the testing right on the device, right on the computer. So let's change that to the actual local URL of the website and then click save. And now that we are ready with the providers and the URL configuration, we are pretty much ready for the next step. And this is very exciting. Now I will preview the website again. I'm going to right click on the index.html, open with Five server, and it will open the page, of course. Now let's go to sign up. And here, before the test, it is a good idea to iron out some problems that might occur, especially during the authentication process. Now you want to right click anywhere on the page and then click inspect. And if you go to the console section, usually there could be some problems that we might need to fix before we can actually start testing this application. So right now there is this problem. There is a problem that basically the Supabase needs to be initialized first. So I'm going to just copy the code, copy the error code, and then I'm going to paste that into the Windsurf code editor, and I'm going to tell it that when I go to the sign up page, I saw this error message on the from console column, and then I'm going to just paste the error code and send that to the AI, and it will fix the problem right away. Right, so it says that the error should now be resolved. The authentication system should work properly. Anyway, let's click accept all and let's go back to the browser, and hopefully we won't see the same problem. I'm going to refresh the page, and well, there is still a problem. I'm going to copy this code again and just tell the AI that I saw a new problem on the console, and just paste the code and hit enter. Now again, I have mentioned that if you're using the same prompt, you might still be seeing a different problem. Just describe the problem, copy the error code, and just paste that into the AI code editor, and hopefully it will solve the problem. And sometimes you might need to go back and forth until it get it right, but that's just the way of working with an AI code editor. But at least we don't have to write a single line of code, and not to mention maybe AI doing a much better job at debugging than a lot of people. Okay, now it says the error should now be resolved. I'm going to click accept all again, and let's go back to the browser, and hopefully there is no problem. Yes, it appears to be there is no problem. There is only this small warning because I was using Tailwind CSS, which is something that I didn't have, but for some reason the AI actually using Tailwind CSS. You can see it here. It is using Tailwind CSS, even though I previously asked to only use vanilla CSS and JavaScript, but for some reason the AI just recommend using the Tailwind CSS, and that's why we got this error message. But this is not really an error. This is more like a recommendation from the Tailwind CSS that that this CDN is only for testing, not for a full production. But of course, we can just ignore that. Now I'm going to try to sign up and let's see what's going to happen. And for the email, I'm going to use a service from tempmail.org where I can just got disposable email that I can use to verify my account. Now let's go back to the site. I'm going to paste the email address, and for the password, I guess I'm going to be using the password suggestion from the LastPass password extension that I'm using on my browser. So this is the password and I'm going to click sign up. Okay, just wait. There should be, okay, there is a message that the registration was successful and please check your email. Anyway, I'm going to click add password, and again, this is the extension of my browser. This is not coming from the app. And let's go back to the email and hopefully, well, we can actually see there is an email. All right, so this is the email that Supabase has sent to us, and I can click on this link to verify my account and I should be able to log in the application that I just made using AI. Now I'm going to click this link and it will lead me to this page. So you can see the URL is now different. This is basically the URL confirmation that I was able to verify my account and I can sign in to the service because my account has been pretty much listed in my Supabase account. So if you actually go back to the Supabase project and you visit authentication, you'll see that there's going to be the email that has been registered into the application. I'm going to refresh the page to see the new email, and there you go. So this was the new email. And let's go back to the sign in page. I'm going to just paste the, fill out the form and click sign in. And there you go. Now I'm in the dashboard. And as you can see here, there is an error message that appears, but this error message in particular is happening because we haven't set up the table in our database in our Supabase project, and that's why we got this error message. And now if you actually see something that looks similar to this, then the next step is we have to set up the table in our database. Now let's go back to the Windsurf code editor, and if you actually notice on the previous response from the AI, you will see this error, this code that actually gives us the clue about what we need to do. So actually we have to create a table in our Supabase project, and there are multiple ways we can create the table. So let's minimize Windsurf and go to Supabase, and then you want to navigate to table editor. Now to create a table, you can click create a new table, and then here you can fill out the name, and then you can enable row level security. You can actually create columns based on the information that was provided by the AI. But in case you didn't see anything like this, then you can use this prompt. Number one, hey, I have tested the user authentication and it is, sorry about that, it is working. Now I want the AI to provide the step-by-step guide to generate a table in Supabase. And number three, okay, this is very interesting. Provide an SQL command to generate the table with generate table in Supabase with row level security enabled. All right, I have to explain this a little bit, especially the point number 2 and number 3. So the point of number 2 and number 3 are actually the same thing. It is achieving the same thing. And I think it's going to be a lot easier to understand if I just send the message to the AI and wait for its response. It's going to be a lot easier to explain and understand. Okay, so this is the response from the AI. So there are two different approaches. The first approach is we can create the table by using this method. We have to, create a new table and then give it a name, and then, you have to click this and then you have to select the integer type. Don't worry, AI will provide all the value that you have to insert for creating this table. So you can basically just follow the guide that was provided by the AI. But there is also another method, which is by using the SQL command. Let's go back. And this is the SQL command or the SQL command, depending on how you read SQL. I probably call it SQL. And you can actually just copy this and then paste that into the SQL editor in Supabase, and it will do the same thing. It will create the table. So previously, it's actually a lot more difficult to create an SQL like this because this is yet another language. But since we are using AI, this is actually becoming the easiest method because we can just copy the command and we can go back to Supabase and navigate to SQL editor. And here you want to right click and then paste. Okay, Okay, there's this message. I think remember to use Ctrl and V. So this is going to be creating the table that we need for our note-taking app. Now click run and just wait. Okay, it was a success. Now if you go back to the table editor and if you refresh the page, there is going to be a new file. There's going to be a new table and it's called notes. So it was created by just copy and paste the SQL command. That's why that method is very useful. We don't have to manually, create a new table and then you have to click this, click there, select this setting, select that setting. Using SQL is just much more precise and AI can provide the command for us. That's why I highly recommend using the SQL editor method. Right, now let's go back to the Windsurf code editor, and as you can see that the AI told me that after creating the table and setting up the RLS, which is the row level security, your note taker application will be able to securely store and manage notes for each user. So let's go back to the application and I'm going to refresh the page because there is a new changes, and yeah, there is no more error message. I'm going to create a new note. Let's click new note and let's try. This is my first note. Subscribe to Risk AI and click save. Note created successfully. That's pretty good. Now let's go back to the Supabase table, and you want to navigate to table editor and you can click notes, and there you go. There is this new entry has been created into the table. The title is "This is my first note." The content, subscribe to Chris AI, which is exactly the content that I put into the note. Now what would happen if I modify the note? Let's click that and let's change the content to my favorite color is black and white. Then click save. Let's go back again and we have to refresh the page to see the changes. Just wait, and there you go. My favorite color is black and white. Now I'm going to create some more new note. Let's try pineapple pizza is amazing, which is very controversial. Let's click save, and if I go back and then refresh the page, you'll see there will be two different entries because I just made two different notes. Okay, my favorite color is black and white and pineapple pizza is amazing. Okay, now I'm going to remove one of them. Let's remove this note. Click the trash icon, click delete, and let's go back to Supabase, reload, and well, there you go. There is only one note for that particular user, and you can actually start creating a different account. You can ask this feature, you can try to see what problems that you can solve, but basically that's all the process that you need to take to create a simple note-taking app that utilizes the Supabase authentication and also the database, so the user can store their information safely and they can manage it anytime they want. And that's it for today. I hope you learned something from this video, and if you want to see more tutorial videos about AI coding / prompting, then you definitely need to subscribe to this channel. So if you want to learn more about user authentication in detail, you can check out the video that I have made before. That video is going to be a lot more easier to understand compared to this video because I just glossed over some details for the user authentication, but trust me, it's not very difficult. But anyway, I really appreciate that you're watching this video to the end. Thank you so much for watching, and I wish you a great day ahead.